Sure.
Do you want to do it? You don't need to like.
Yes.
It's so funny because I'm so small.
All right. So, oh, sorry. Yeah. Right then, so ladies and gentlemen, this is Craig Wilkinson giving us a taster to the Faust programming language.
Yeah, I hope you're excited because it's potentially going to be quite boring. Has anyone here actually done much programming? I know a couple of guys have, but in fact, put your hands up if you've done some programming, just so I get an idea. And put your hands up if you've used some audio production software. So kind of the reverse a little bit. So Faust is a digital signal processing language. So it basically just takes a stream of input data, does some magic on it, and then gives an output. What we're going to do is try and interactively make some kind of delay plug input, and then try it out, see what happens. Hopefully it'll work. So let me get something a bit easier to do out here. Yeah, so basically Faust comes with a whole of make files, which allow you to build your application into a whole set of different things. So if you've used VSTs before, you can make VST files. We're not going to do that because VSTs are closed source, which is really bad. We're going to build a LADSPA plugin, which is more kind of free and open source, and it also works on this laptop, so that's our website. So we'll go ahead and we'll go into this folder here, and there's a program called FaustWorks. What that does is it will show you like a kind of graphical representation of the program as you're writing it, which is really useful, especially for a talk like this one. It's kind of funny because the idea for Faust is if anyone's used Pure Data, Pure Data is like an application to build these kind of things with a graphical interface. And then someone came along and said that you'd rather take that graphical interface and then program with it. So it's like you've gone from programming language to graphical and then back to a programming language again, which is kind of bizarre. So we'll create a scene here. Starts off with nothing. So we'll add an item. Save that in. So we'll call that delay. And then that makes a delay.dsp file, so that's the actual source for that's the source file for the plugin itself. And it starts off with this line already for us. Process equals plus. And all that does is converts a stereo display into a mono, a stereo input into a mono output. This process here is kind of like what main would be if you were using Java or C. So this is kind of your entry point to the program. And this is shorthand for this. So you notice this doesn't change because it's the same thing. These underscores basically are just like a cable, kind of look like a cable. So what we want is obviously some kind of delay on the input. That won't do anything because we've not defined delay yet. So let's try and do that. Say delay x equals And this is where the magic happens. So you have a kind of, if x is your input, you want to take x, and then we have this little primitive, this little operator called at, and then it takes a number, and that should give us a more interesting visual here. So what at does is, because you have your input, which is a stream of data, in digital signal processing you have a sample rate. So the sample rate is just the resolution or the speed at which you have input coming in. So this 10 means if you have your input, then take the frame that's 10 behind the newest one, so the 10th oldest frame. But that's not very useful because it's not, we'd rather have something more like in seconds.
So, sorry, is that every 10 frames it takes a frame? Or?
No, every frame it takes the 10th oldest frame. So all this will do, if we were to apply this to an audio file, it would just move it forwards by 10 frames, which is no use to us. We want it to actually have a delay effect. So the normal sample rate for music is 44,100 hertz. So if we multiply that, then that would be 10 seconds. And that's going to take the audio from 10 seconds ago. So we'll move everything forwards by 10 seconds. Again, we don't really want that because we want to actually add that back to the input so that we get an echo sound rather than just moving everything. And the way to do that is a little bit more complicated. There's an operator in Faust called the recursion operator. So if anyone's used a functional language like Haskell, then you're probably going to have a headache. But this thing basically is just a loop back, so it will just take this thing on the right and then loop it back and then use this operator before the brackets to concatenate with the input. So it sounds kind of complicated, but all it really does is bring it backwards to the beginning. So we've used this plus here. We could use subtractive synthesis here and take that away, but we're not going to do that. And this 10, we're going to want to be variable, so we'll call that time. And then we'll say time. And this is the really cool part about Faust, because if you've used VSTs, then obviously you know that you need to have some kind of slider or a knob. So you can actually just define a slider, which has a default value, and we'll say that's 1, because this is in seconds. A minimum of 0 and a maximum of say 4 seconds, and then an increment of 0.1 seconds. Is everyone with me? Yeah, so that should give us a slider when we build the, when we actually come around to building the plugin. So there's a big problem with this at the moment. Can anyone see what it is? Well, so basically, because we have this feedback here, we've got no way to actually reduce the volume of the feedback, so all of the sound will just accumulate until you've got this horrible mess. So we actually want to multiply this by an amplitude, which will be between 0 and 1. That didn't build, which is bad. Why is that? Oh yeah, because amp is not defined, sorry. Just grab that. And that's the amplitude. Except this time it's going to be between 0 and 1, because you want it to get smaller. If you had something greater than 1, it would just escalate out of control. So that's that. That's basically our complete delay application. So it's quite impressive that in 4 lines you can create a GUI interface for a VST plugin or for a Faust plugin, which will actually do something cool. So let's actually try and do it. We need to copy these make files. And for some reason, I'm not sure why it does this, but it creates these temporary files while you're writing, and if you run the makefile, it also tries to compile those and you get errors, which is pretty frustrating. And another thing which I actually was trying to fix for days, if you have a hyphen in the title of your plugin, then it will just completely not work because it tries to replace occurrences of a certain word in the C++ file to your file name. So it puts a minus and then it just crashes when it thinks you're trying to perform a subtraction, which is pretty ridiculous. But you can actually see which plugin types are available to us. We're going to use this labs filter. But you do have all sorts of pretty interesting things. You can make an iPhone plugin. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but you can do it apparently. So we'll make this. In fact, do you have a audio demo?
Yeah, very nice, yeah.
This one very solid. Yeah, that should be fine. So we need to copy this into our, what's that called? Yeah, so if we copy so that should put that in the correct directory. And I'll open an application called Aquilum, which is basically just a music player which allows you to use effects plugins as well. I don't know why someone made that, but apparently that's useful. Well, it's useful right now. I don't know if yeah, I suppose, but you can't really mix or anything. It's just I don't know. But I'm glad he made it anyway. So if we go down, there should be this delay plugin. There it is. This is one I did earlier. The one we made. And there it is. So we've got those sliders. So if we, there's a really good bit actually in this song that's quite good for this. Has anyone heard of Rata? Yeah. So if we it's pretty messy, obviously, but it does work. Yeah, that's that. Sorry for totally breaking your ears. But yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest. We could try making something else if someone's interested. I'm not sure what we would try, but open for options. Or we can just talk about it, or if anyone has any questions, then go ahead.
You make that a synthesizer?
You can make a synthesizer. I've not done it, so I would have to look up tutorials and stuff. So I probably can do that today, but maybe another talk on Faust synthesis. But yeah, I've never done synthesis. I've only done processing.
How does LFO, does LFOs work?
I'm pretty sure there are definitions for sine, cosine, so you can just use those at obviously a low rate, and then you can do whatever you want with those. I'm sure they're already in here. I think you literally just write it in like I don't know. Let's try. We'll see if this compiles. Yeah, there's already sine operators and costs, things like that. So you can just supply the
Yeah, put a variable inside that.
yeah. So you can set the frequency as to whatever you want. That's the thing. There is only, the community for Faust is tiny. The only tutorials I could find were YouTube videos by the guy who created Faust. And there is right, this is actually really wacky because this is the website for Faust. I learned just by looking at examples, and also the documentation. But the documentation, clearly the guys who made this aren't really programmers, they're more signal processing guys, because if you look at the reference, the way that they've written this stuff is crazy. It's like an actual box diagram for each of, like, I mean, this is, if you have like the actual language, rather than using a grammar, they've actually got like a signal process for the text that you type to write a program. So it's absolutely ridiculous. It's quite difficult to get your head around by looking at the definition. But yeah, I mean, like that, the examples and the YouTube videos are probably a good place to start.
So, how long has Faust been around for, and how, like, are there any people we might know who are using it, or is it literally just the creators?
It's really small. I haven't found a community for it online at all.
Really?
Yeah, it's super small. I found a couple of like mailing lists problems, like when I googled problems, a couple of like, you know, those really old school like top posted
Like mailing list
conversations.
archives, yeah.
You have to like click the re sort of thing, and then it was absolutely horrible. And so, I mean, I don't know when it was invented actually, but
Is this sort of thing that
you can follow them with these.
Sorry?
I know the DAWs got quite on Twitter.
What's that?
This is really rare. I can't actually see the screen.
Oh, can you not? Oh, sorry. No, it's its own language.
It was a Ruby project, I thought, based on this, the DAWs.
Well, like a wrapper maybe. Because the language Faust itself is its own language. I don't know if there's any wrappers for it, but I would have liked them on Facebook because they've only got 135. So.
Right, everyone go and like Faust. Pretty much double fan base.
But it's a shame because it's so easy to make a really powerful plugin in a few lines and actually get like an interactive VST out of it. So I'm surprised it's such a small community, because if you want to actually write a VST or a LASPA plugin, the C definitions are horrendous.
Okay, so obviously you sort of showed us like all the different sort of projects it can make. So it will work with normal digital audio workstations, things like this, and you can just build the same GUIs or things that work with them. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it will build. I mean, that's why you get so many options for building for different platforms. But if you have the, as long as you have the make files, I imagine the process on Windows would be slightly different. But yeah, you can build for different architectures. It has Mac, things like that. So. Yeah. That's really cool.
Because we study, a few of the guys here in Canada, going to be talking later, study digital composition,
Yeah.
a lot of computing, but I had no idea about Faust.
Yeah. I can't remember how I came across it. Yeah. It's useful. I recommend it. Try and grow the community a bit. I'll have someone to talk to you about it rather than just sit in a room.
I know there's people open to it. I just personally haven't found a reason why I should choose that versus like Gen or something.
Right, yeah.
But
Well, I've noticed, that's the thing. I mean, I was speaking to you about it earlier, and I've not really, I don't know anything about this digital signal processing stuff. I just literally googled like, I really want to make some VSTs. I've got some ideas for some cool plugins. What I did, I just googled like easy way to make VSTs, and then Faust somehow was up there despite being such a small thing. And that's where it got. I mean, you said you'd heard of it.
yeah.
You thought about using it before.
I've tried using it. I just haven't. With my workflow as it is, I just didn't see how I could fit it in. I know there's a lot of people open to it.
Can we see some more complicated ones?
Have you made anything?
Big rural examples.
I haven't read anything much more complicated than that. There's a lot of good examples. I feel there's a bit of a common, but there's a whole sort of repository online, and it has like an editor within the site. You can go to. We'll have a look at some sense, since it's some you were saying. Choose it.
Oscillator, right? Choose you.
Just get like an example of code.
Yeah, that's maybe what I wrote is actually a very complicated Faust program. Granular is fun.
Delete it.
Nobody can use it right now. It's bad.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to sit right now and decode that. But,
Something to do at home.
seems really good.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's that.
Great. Thanks very much.